Okay, class, where we are now. Now, I will admit I like to do lab in class, but this semester, as you know, we're having to do it online. So this is my attempt to do some lab online. The lab is primarily, well, it's really exclusive. I shouldn't say primarily, going to be just identification of certain structures. So we're going to start, this will be kind of my bone lab, I guess you could say. And what I want you to do, okay, my suggestion is to look at one of my colleagues' websites, Rose Shute. She's an excellent professor, and I'd like for you to look at her website, apshute.com. She has some great information on the lab, other information also. She has a private website. I have a private website. She does hers a little differently. She's more biologically inclined. I'm more medically inclined. So look at hers too. Pull up AP Shute. Now, I'm going to hit this actually from her bone list. I always like to give credit. I'm going to hit this from her bone list. And what I'm going to do is try to walk through each of her structures and show you pictures. But I'd like for you to look at your textbook and do it on your own. Ideally, we'd be using the models in class and stuff like that there. And this semester I can't. Next semester I can, because I'll do a hybrid course. All right. Now, the PowerPoints I'll be using in this video, I don't really know how many videos I'm going to do for bone. I'm hoping just 2 or maybe 3 at the absolute max. But I want you to look at, first of all, it's best to print out the bone identification list. But, I mean, you don't have to. I mean, you can, if you want to just go through it on the screen. Then you want to open PowerPoints. That's where I'm going to be getting the pictures from. Bone 1 for bone histology. I'm going to look at bone histology, bone 1. That's the name of the PowerPoint. Now, you've seen it before because we did it on histology. And that's where I'll look at this right here, the little histology. And then for the skeleton, look at Axial Skeleton 1, Axial Skeleton 2, and the Appendicular Skeleton. Okay, so that's kind of the PowerPoints that I'll be using in my videos here, and we'll just see how this kind of goes here. Okay. All right. And I'll put this in the D2L too, so you'll know which PowerPoints to look at again. All right, so I'm going to take this down. So the first thing, we're looking at histology, and this is what we're looking at. Okay, so we've talked about this in the didactic portion of the course, so it shouldn't be something new to you, but we'll just go through it. All right, so what we have is the osteon. Now, this is a ground bone section, and each of those are osteons. We've talked about it before. And this is from compact bone. So in compact bone, remember you have the eversion system. Okay. In each osteon, you have that central canal that blood vessels were coming in and out. See, here's again to look at it. Right there. Blood vessels would be coming in and out of that right there. Okay. And, which is that there. It's a little lazy on my click here. All right, so we go back there. That's that. The Vocalist Canal, remember, came in at a right angle. The Vocalist Canal, let's go to this picture, came in at a right angle. That's a Vocalist Canal. And in this picture here, that would be, anytime you see something like that, that's coming into the central canal. Okay, so that's a Vocalist. An osteocyte, remember, would be cells up in these lacunae. An osteocyte. The lacunae is the space that the osteocyte is in. The lacunae, let's see if I can find something here. Here's the lacunae, okay, are spaces where you would place the osteocytes. Okay, and I don't know if I have an osteocyte picture here. Got that off at hand. The canaliculi are little canals that go between one lacunae and the other. So in this here, those little wiggly line things would be the canaliculi. Okay. Trabeculae are found in spongy bone, those little spicules of bone. See these trabeculae right here. This is spongy bone there. These trabeculae. Okay. Then if we go to the long bone here, here's again trabeculae to show you there. Okay. Here are, all right, so now we go, here's the osteocyte again within those lacunae. All right, so hold on one second. We're now going to go to long bone. Okay, class, here is long bone. Okay, so in the long bone, we're seeing the epiphysis, which we've talked about on the two ends. The diaphysis is in the center. See, I'm just going this one. The epiphyseal line, this epiphyseal line is the growth plate. Compact bone is this area right here. That's where the inversion system is. That's compact bone there. Spongy bone, this would be spongy bone here, or also called cancellous bone. That's where the trabeculae are. The Highland Cartilage is that smooth cartilage where the joints are, right here on both ends, smooth slide. Remember when you lose that, that's how you get osteoarthritis. The periosteum is this right here. That's that connective tissue covering around the diaphysis of the bone there. Sharpie's fibers, let's see if we can find that. Sharpie's fibers are those fibers that anchor, see if I can find a picture here, that anchor the periosteum to the bone. Here's Sharpie's fibers right there. They anchor the periosteum to the bone there. That's Sharpie's fibers, so it doesn't slide up and down. The medullary cavity, if you recall, is this here, where as an adult is yellow bone marrow, but as a kid is red bone marrow. Okay, so that completes her list right there. That completes her list right there on this. Okay, I think I've shown you everything. All right, now we're going to go to the axial skeleton. Okay, class. The skeleton is divided up into an axial skeleton and an appendicular skeleton. I kind of think of the axial skeleton like the axis, like a pen. And so with the axial skeleton, it's kind of like a pen, I guess you could say, and around it is the appendicular skeleton. The axial skeleton would be in green here. It has the skull, the vertebral column, the ribs, the sternum. Okay, see here's the sacrum here. So this is this and then around it would be the shoulder girdle, also called the pectoral girdle, your arms, hands, fingers, legs, and of course, so we got the shoulder girdle, then we got the pectoral girdle. So it's kind of like a girdle around. And that would include the pelvic bones, legs, feet, and toes, to make it simple. So we're starting first with structures of the axial skeleton, and we'll just kind of walk through these here. Okay? So and so we start first with the cranium, which has bones, different bones. So we'll start first with the frontal bone, let's say. So I'm going to come down here, and here's a picture of your frontal bone there. Now, within the frontal bone, now we're looking at parts. So the frontal bone is in the front. So we now are looking at different parts. Okay, we have some hollow spaces in the skull that we call the sinuses. They're characteristically called the paranasal sinuses. Let me see if I can find those real quick here. The paranasal sinuses. Okay, so the paranasal sinuses would be these here. You see them on commercials where you have sinusitis. So these are hollow spaces in the skull covered by a mucous membrane. So we have some sinuses, hollow spaces in the frontal bone called the frontal sinuses. Then when we get to the other bones, ethmoidal, sphenoidal, maxillary, we have some others. So I'm just showing you while we have this picture up. So we got the frontal sinus. Okay, now we're going to go back to the skull in the front. We're going to go back to the skull in the front. All right. Now, I'm looking at the supraorbital foramen, okay? You see that little hole right there? Anytime you have a foramen, there's something coming in and out of it. We won't get into that this time. The glabella is this, put right there. If you put your hand right up there, kind of above your nasal bone, that's the glabella. Okay. So, for the frontal bone, that's all she's named. And I'm going to stick with that because, again, like I said, in class I do more. But for right now, we're just going to, so right here is the frontal bone. Now, I will add one more, the squamous portion. That's your forehead. The squamous portion, if you put your hand on your forehead, that's the squamous part of the frontal bone. So what do we have here? We have the supraorbital foramen, the squama. Now right here, if you put your hand right there, that's the supraorbital margin or rib. That's where it bends into the eye socket right there. Just showing you some stuff. But again, we're going to really stick with this list, but normally I'd have a more complete list, but I'm going to stick with this one since it's already done. Okay, so that's the frontal bone. All right, let's now go to what she has on the parietal bone. Okay, so we're gonna turn this sideways. Okay, here are the parietal bones. They meet and articulate with the frontal bone. So this is the major part of the top of your head. And as you can see, it's hard to see. There's one on this side and one on the other side. So if you turned it around, one on this side and one, that's the parietal bone right there. Okay. Now in the parietal bone, you have this sagittal suture. So I need the top of the skull. Let me see if I can find the top of the skull. Okay. Looking from the very top. And I don't have one, do I? Hold on. Okay, here's the sagittal suture right there, which the two parietal bones articulate with one another, right there at that midline, that sagittal suture there. Okay. The coronal suture, okay, let's go there. Let's see, let's go back here. I'm going to show you that. Okay, let's go. That's the suture going across. And I'm going to need this one. Okay, so that suture right there going across where the frontal bone meets the parietal bone, that's your coronal suture. Remember, that's in the coronal plane right there. So what we've done is the frontal bone and the parietal bone, those two. Frontal bone and parietal bone. So I'm going to close here and start another one.